So I attempted to make this delicious looking okra stew with 50 cedis. Before you watch the video to the very end, let me know if you think I was able to achieve it. It's so crazy how much the cost of living has risen. These days, you take 50 cedis or 100 cedis or 200 cedis to the market and it can literally buy nothing. Before I made my okra stew, I went to the market. I went to Race Course Market to get the needed ingredients. So I bought some pepper, tomatoes, onions. I had some things at home, so I bought the ones that I did not have. When I came back home, I went ahead to wash my okra and then to chop it. Soft life babe like me, you know, I'm not gonna chop okra with my hands. This machine here did the work in less than a minute and it got me the perfect texture. This is how I wanted it. I know you can chop it to be a little bit bigger than this, but this is exactly how I wanted it. You can chop it however you want. This is how I wanted the texture. Guys, can you see this? Can you see this? I'm so happy that I was born in a generation where there's technology, because me, I would have suffered. I would have really suffered if I wasn't born in this generation because I'm so lazy. So after that, I just transferred the okra into a pan and I added some water and potash, also known as a kiln, to it, and then I just put it on fire for it to cook. I've actually tried another recipe where you don't cook the okra, and that's also a banger. You guys should actually try it. I think I have it on my YouTube shorts. It's so good. So at this point, the okra was ready. It was drawing like something, drawing. So I just put that aside and I went ahead to wash my protein. So I use beef, and then I also added some Kahuro or Wele to it. Remember, we are on a budget, okay? So we are not going to be using too much or be doing too much, just a little bit of everything because of the budget. And then I went ahead to add my blended ginger, onions, and then garlic to it to steam the meat, and then some seasoning cube, salt, and then water. You're going to put this on fire for a little bit for the meat to tenderize before you continue making the stew. At this point, you should have prepped your other ingredients like the pepper, the onions, the ginger, the tomatoes, or whatever you're going to be using. So you can either chop the tomatoes you're going to be using or you blend it. I blended everything. So after the meat was ready, it was looking so good, I went ahead to add my palm oil into my pan and then add my momone or cured fish. You can use Kobe, you can use kako, you can use super cool. Any thing that can add some umami flavor to the stew. I also added some smoked mackerel, popularly known in the Ghanaian market as salmon. It's not salmon, not even salmon, as Simon. If you go and say that you want mackerel, nobody would know. They'll probably give you a canned mackerel. So this is the smoked fish or smoked mackerel that we are adding to it. I added a lot of it into it and then I just gave it a good stir. Usually I'll add some chopped onions and tomatoes, but as I mentioned, I blended my tomatoes and onions and everything together because this is supposed to be a quick okra stew, not too much work. So this is everything I blended. I added that together to make the stew, and then I gave that a good stir and then covered it for it to simmer down before adding the other things. On most days, I actually add tomato paste to my okra stew, but my mom told me that okra stew doesn't really like tomatoes because that can affect how much the okra draws. So for this particular recipe, I did not add any tomato paste to it. So I just allowed the stew to be on fire for it to simmer down, and then I just went ahead to add the meat stock and then the meat to the soup, to the stew. It's so funny that I'm saying soup instead of stew because I did not allow this to actually simmer down as needed. So if you are watching this recipe, you can let it simmer down more after it looks like this so that all the liquid in it can actually evaporate and you get the stew before you add in the stock and then the meat, right? So at this point, our okra stew is almost done. I also covered this for it to cook properly for about 10-15 minutes. This is how it was looking like. It was tasting very good. Usually when you chop the tomatoes and then you add tomato paste or other things to it, it's going to look more solid than this, right? So I went ahead and added the cooked okra. So the okra is also looking like this because of the texture, because of how I chopped it. So if you chop it bigger than what I did and you add garden eggs to it, it's going to look different, right? So every stew looks different based on certain techniques or certain things you do to it. So this is how I actually wanted it to be. So I added the cooked okra to it, and at this point it's almost done. All you have to do is just to cover it, allow it to sit till the oil settles on top, and then your food is ready. Okra stew can be served with a variety of things: kinke, bangkun, eba. Um, People even eat okra stew with rice. I have never seen that before. I hope I never see it. I don't know how that's possible, but I know people see it. But this is the end result, guys, and it tasted amazing. You can go and try this recipe. This recipe is actually very budget friendly. I'll leave the cost breakdown in the description box. And I wasn't able to use only 50 cedis to make this recipe. You can see that this is not a 50 cedis recipe in this economy. How much do you think I used?